2025 is already becoming a good year for all of us Yellowstone fans, thanks to 1923 Season 2 blessing us with one banger episode after another every single week. Don't get me wrong, the show's pacing is still relatively slow, especially in comparison to other Yellowstone shows. In fact, whenever I realize that there are only 4 episodes left until the show's ending, I get anxious. But thanks to behind-the-scenes rumors, predictions, and some trailer sleuthing, we already know that as of episode 5, the pacing will speed up immensely, preparing us for an epic ending. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, can we all agree on the fact that Donald Whitfield is absolutely terrifying? And he'll get even more terrifying as the show progresses. I don't know about you guys, but that speech he gave to those potential investors about vacationing, in which he said it was a necessity for any wealthy man, made my skin crawl. I don't think I will ever not be fascinated by the words that come out of his evil mind. At this point, it became clear that he's not just a businessman. He's playing a whole different game. I have to admit, though, that the way he promised a 100-0-0-0 to 1 return on investment was pretty smart. And yeah, I think a lot of us would have believed in him and invested in him if he had been in that room. So the man is evil, but he's an intelligent and attractive evil, and that's what makes him so dangerous. Which brings us to episode 5, titled Only Gunshots to Guide Us. Let me give you a second to think about where those gunshots will guide the Duttons. Pause the video for a second and give me your answer. Did you write it down? Good. Well, if you've written Donald and his men, you are absolutely right, because as we know from the trailer, the Duttons will not give up on their ranch for a goddamn ski resort anytime soon. Yes, Donald will successfully convince the city council to pressure the Duttons to give up the ranch. And as an additional pressure, he will surround the Dutton ranch with his men, forcing the Duttons to leave the ranch. At that point, we will see Kara take that huge rifle in her hand and point it at Donald. And yes, even our lovely and pregnant Elizabeth will join the Dutton defense. In other words, brace yourself for the action because things will get pretty chaotic over in Montana. Plus, the telegraph Spencer sent all the way back in episode 2, I guess, is finally going to arrive in episode 5. But of course, it's not going to reach the right person. Somehow, Banner is going to get his hands on it, which means he'll know that Spencer is coming back to Montana. As you can already imagine, that will change everything. Yes, Spencer is the only one who can save the ranch, but if Banner and Donald know he's coming, they're not going to make it easy for him. From this point on, we will watch Spencer walking straight into a trap, but I'll talk about this more in a second. Before we do, we have to talk about Alexandra, as her journey this season has been so hard to watch. What started as this supposedly adventurous escape has quickly turned into pure survival. I still cannot believe how naive she was, thinking that this was going to be a fun adventure, only to end up being humiliated at every single step possible. Episode 4 broke my heart, especially seeing her robbed, beaten, and humiliated like that, forced to walk down that luxury train car while everyone just stared at her. It was simply brutal. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but I feel like we're seeing her start to lose hope. It's like she's wondering how much more she can take before she completely breaks. And I'm actually scared that episode 5 is going to push Alexandra even further. She'll be stuck on that train with no food and no one to help her. Unfortunately, she will be victim to some unwanted advances from some terrible men, and things will push her limits to unexpected points. In fact, I'm afraid to report that, based on what I've heard, there's a high chance that eventually Donald is going to see that vulnerability and use it to his advantage. Yes, there's a long way to reach that point, but still, we should always remember that his men are everywhere, and they're currently looking for a new toy for him, as we saw in episode 4. So yes, the thing that makes me anxious the most about the upcoming 1923 episodes is the idea of Alexandra being pulled into Donald's web without even realizing it. Can you imagine how terrible that would be? Because the thing is, not only Alexandra, but also Spencer has been through hell this season. And yes, I would hate to see Alexandra or him suffering even more, especially because of a man like Donald. Between fighting off the Italian mafia and barely escaping death more than once, it feels like the universe is testing him for no reason whatsoever. Like, we are basically exploring American history through Spencer's journey. And that is the only reason why he keeps suffering. And yes, I resent Taylor Sheridan for this. That being said, if you catch the scene where he saved a sex worker from the hands of that Christian women's group, you already know how he feels about this subject. And I don't think this scene was solely there to make him look like a hero while telling us that there were such women's groups back then. I believe this was foreshadowing what's to come next, aka Alexandra's poor fate and how Spencer will save her from the hands of Donald. And yes, I already feel terrible for both of them, but let me know what you think. When we look specifically at episode 5, though, we can clearly see that it's going to be a game changer for Spencer. He's finally going to meet Marshal Mimi Fawcett, and she's going to give him the last piece of the puzzle, the way back to Montana. But the problem is Banner and Donald already know he's coming. That means Spencer is walking into a fight he might not be prepared for. If he makes it to Montana in time, maybe, just maybe, he can save the ranch. But if he's too late, I don't even want to think about what could happen to the Duttons. During this journey, he will also meet Tiona, and they will make a deal with him to save Tiona from the charges she's facing. And of course, that solution is none other than taking Tiona to Montana and giving her a brand new life there. So the rest of Spencer's journey will not be alone. If you want to learn more stuff about the Yellowstone universe, check out this video.